Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question is, can I analyze the case of Megan Nichols and Brody Murbarker? Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I will put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the crime, then offer my analysis. Megan Paige Nichols was born on July 18, 1998, in Evansville, Indiana. She was raised in Fairfield, Illinois, which is just over an hour northwest of Evansville. Her mother's name was Kathy Jo, and her father's name was John. Megan's father was out of the picture since her birth and lived in Tulsa, Oklahoma. When Megan was in high school, she played volleyball and was in the band. At some point, Megan met a teenager named Brody Ian Murbarker. He was born on November 27, 1995, so he was about 2.5 years older than Megan. At a homecoming dance in the fall of 2013, there was an incident that marked the beginning of their romantic relationship. Megan was at the dance with a boy from her church. Brody was at the dance with his girlfriend, Kendra. Megan and Brody started dancing with each other and abandoned their dates. Megan's date ended up leaving alone, while Kendra made her way to the bleachers and cried. Kendra was given a more legitimate reason to cry not long after this, because Brody reunited with her. Brody maintained his relationship with Kendra and Megan at the same time, like he wanted to have two girlfriends. Evidently, neither Kendra nor Megan realized they were being manipulated, or they did not care. In the spring of 2014, Megan was upset after Brody took Kendra to the prom. He told Megan that his mother, who recently died, would have wanted him to take Kendra. Megan explained the situation to her mother, Kathy Jo, who barred Megan from having any contact whatsoever with Brody. After this declaration, Kathy Jo said that Brody paid a visit to her house. He informed her that she was too controlling and needed to go on medication. Later, Brody texted Kathy Jo and told her that he talked to a guidance counselor about her. He threatened to get Child Protective Services involved. Ostensibly, he was trying to protect Megan from Kathy Jo. It was like Brody was trying to intimidate and manipulate Kathy Jo. He was trying to show her that he was powerful and could cause damage. As a result of being forbidden to see Brody, Megan's mood should have improved, but it did not. She was not thinking logically, rather her emotions were out of control. Megan dropped out of band and generally seemed gloomy. Now moving to the timeline of the crime. On July 3, 2014, Megan's mother, Kathy Jo, was helping a friend at the friend's residence. Megan was there as well. At around 9 p.m., Megan said her stomach hurt, so her mother took her home. After dropping her off, Kathy Jo went back to help the friend. She returned to the house at around 11 p.m. At about 11:30 p.m., Kathy Jo went to Megan's room to check on her, but was surprised to discover that Megan was not there. She was not anywhere in the house. This was alarming. Kathy Jo reported Megan missing to the police. Not long after this, Kathy Jo found Megan's cell phone. It had been reset to factory settings. Kathy Jo's mother found a note which was written by Megan and addressed to Kathy Jo. In the note, Megan indicated that she would never be able to be truly happy there. She was sorry that this had to happen. She told her mother not to look for her because it would be a waste of time. Megan did not want to be found. She advised Kathy Jo not to worry about her and encouraged her to enjoy her life with her romantic partner. On July 4, at about 8 a.m., Kathy Jo and her mother drove to Brody's residence. When they pulled up, he was outside washing his 2009 Dodge Avenger. Brody told them that Megan went to live with her father in Oklahoma. The police checked out this claim. Megan's father did not know anything about Megan's whereabouts. The police spoke to Brody. He claimed that he and Megan were just friends, nothing more. On the night she disappeared, he drove around looking for Megan for a few hours, but did not find her. He returned to his girlfriend's residence before going home at about 5 a.m. The police continued to investigate. They discovered that prior to Megan's disappearance, she and Brody had been exchanging about 150 text messages a day. It was clear from the content of the messages that they had been involved in sexual behavior. In addition, Brody talked to Megan about them running away together. The police interviewed Brody again. He admitted that he talked to Megan about running away, but claimed that he really wasn't interested in doing that. He attempted to discourage Megan from running away. The police examined Brody's Dodge Avenger. They found a red spot on the trunk liner that looked like blood, but the test came back negative. This made it seem like Brody was not involved. In addition, there was evidence that Megan had prepared to run away. Investigators discovered that before she disappeared, Megan withdrew $200 from an ATM. This occurred on July 3 at about 2 p.m. The police were not able to make a case against Brody or anyone else in connection with Megan's disappearance. Not much happened with the investigation for a few years. This would all change on December 26, 2017, when a man and his girlfriend made a grim discovery when looking for firewood in a field just a few miles from Fairfield, Illinois. The couple stumbled upon partially buried human bones. They notified the authorities, who positively identified the remains as those of Megan Nichols. This discovery put Brody back under scrutiny by the police. They interviewed him again. He admitted that 24 hours before Megan went missing, he had made his way into Megan's bedroom without her mother knowing. He helped Megan to pack, and he spent the night there. Brody claimed that when he was looking for Megan later, he left his cell phone at his girlfriend's residence. In a strange twist, he then changed his story and said that he never made an effort to look for Megan. He only wanted it to appear that way. This was part of a master plan to mislead the police, as Megan met a mysterious person in a vehicle to make her escape. Brody, of course, did not know who this mysterious person was. Brody was only serving as a decoy. He wanted the police to focus on him. Ultimately, Brody's wish was granted. The police were convinced that he murdered Megan, but they did not have a strong case against him. There was evidence indicating that Megan had taken actions to disappear on her own, like the note and withdrawing money from the ATM. Brody continued with his life. He moved to Indiana to go to college. As he continued with his studies, investigators decided to take a second look at his Dodge Avenger. Even though the test for blood came back negative, the police wondered if it was a false negative. As it turns out, in 2016, Brody passed out while driving the Dodge Avenger and ran into a tree. The car was sold to a salvage yard, who in turn sold it to a couple in Missouri. The couple allowed the police to test the trunk of the car without a warrant. This time the test for blood came back positive. Under the trunk liner, investigators found even more blood. The DNA came back as a match to Megan Nichols. By this time in the investigation, the FBI was involved. They paid a visit to Brody in Indiana, but he declined to speak with them. They spoke to his roommate, Kyle Ellis. Eventually, they convinced Kyle to wear a wire. Kyle recorded a conversation with Brody, but Brody didn't really say anything incriminating. During another conversation, Brody asked Kyle if he was wearing a wire. Despite being suspicious, Brody made one statement that hurt him. Kyle was asking about Megan's autopsy, which indicated that she had probably been strangled or suffocated. Brody explained how he was in no condition at the time to commit such an act. He said, quote, "I probably couldn't even have lifted my own body weight, much less strangled, if someone with anger issues found out about something and strangled her," unquote. On September 25, 2020, Brody was indicted for first-degree murder, concealment of homicidal death, and 2 counts of home invasion. In October, he was arrested at his place of employment. He went to trial in September of 2022. On October 13, Brody was found guilty on all counts after the jury deliberated for only 2 hours. On January 27, 2023, Brody was sentenced to 50 years in prison. He will be eligible for parole in 2070 when he is about 75 years old. Now moving to my analysis. Brody Merbarger maintains his innocence. His defense argued that there was simply not enough evidence to support a conviction. The state, of course, disagrees. They believe that Brody murdered Megan in her bedroom and buried her body in a shallow grave. This brings me to the question, was Brody guilty of murder? Let's take a look at the evidence both for and against the idea that Brody was guilty, starting with the inculpatory factors. Brody and Megan were involved in a tumultuous romantic relationship, which was forbidden by Megan's mother. Brody did not care and continued to see Megan anyway. He admitted to sneaking into Megan's house against her mother's wishes. Brody was extremely manipulative and was trying to continue his sexual relationship with Megan while simultaneously having another girlfriend. The state claimed that Brody kicked Megan in the leg in the spring of 2014, a few months before she went missing. This supports the idea that he was a violent individual and was willing to harm Megan specifically. Brody admitted to being in Megan's house 24 hours before she disappeared. Megan's last phone calls were to Brody. According to Brody, right after Megan went missing, he drove around looking for her, but he did not take his cell phone with him. This makes it seem like he was trying to keep his movements a secret. Brody later changed his story and said he was never actually looking for Megan. It was some type of diversion. In the trunk of Brody's car, the police eventually identified Megan's blood. Her bones were found in a field, which was close to Fairfield. Moving to the exculpatory factors, Megan clearly had plans to run away and took steps to accomplish that goal. She had been exchanging text messages for a while with Brody, which also documented her plans to leave. In April of 2014, Brody tried to raise money by selling his belongings. He told a friend that he was sick of his family and wanted to run away. Maybe Brody changed his mind and Megan ran away by herself. She was later killed by someone other than Brody. As far as the blood in the trunk of Brody's vehicle, there's no way to know when that blood was left there or under what circumstances. Brody claimed that he had sex with Megan when she was on her period, after which a t-shirt containing her blood was placed in his trunk. The statement that Brody made to his friend about not having the energy to strangle or suffocate Megan was not a confession. He was simply responding to information that Kyle mentioned. When considering all the evidence in this case, do I think that Brody was guilty of murder? Yes, I believe he was guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, although the state did not really have that great a case. I think this case is right on the line. The jury should have deliberated for more than 2 hours. I get the sense that they really didn't like Brody. The failure to properly examine Brody's vehicle early in the investigation was an incredible blunder. Investigators should have pulled up the trunk liner right away. What do I think happened in this case? This is just a theory, my opinion. Brody was grandiose, arrogant, manipulative, overconfident, irresponsible, had a sense of entitlement, and lacked empathy. Megan was naive, deceptive, and did not understand how healthy relationships functioned. Brody and Megan shared the characteristics of impulsivity, immaturity, and being defiant. The couple planned on running away together, but in the process of leaving, one of them had a change of heart. Perhaps Brody decided he did not want to run away, or Megan came to the same conclusion, but either way, one of them deviated from the plan. Brody flew into a rage and strangled Megan over this disagreement. He then calmly disposed of her body and lied about what happened. Due to the timing of the murder, Brody could have easily escaped responsibility. Megan was in the process of running away and left evidence to support that conclusion. She unwittingly supplied an explanation for her disappearance that did not involve Brody being a killer. Ultimately, Brody was unable to capitalize on the circumstances. He spoke to the police and failed to properly clean the trunk of his vehicle. He did more to aid in his prosecution than investigators did. Now moving to my final thoughts. When teenagers believe that they are in love, they lose the small quantity of rational thinking skills they possess. When young love is combined with arrogance, antagonism, and boredom, it becomes particularly hazardous. Teenagers often falsely believe that emotions point to the truth. From their perspective, emotions authorize any behavior necessary in order to gain satisfaction. No behavior is too reckless, irresponsible, or hazardous if it is performed in the service of a fleeting and intense emotion. They end up suffering a lifetime of pain in their effort to escape a moment of pain. Those are my thoughts in the case of Megan Nichols and Brody Merbarker. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comment section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be informative. Thanks for watching.